Ginnie and Austin. Come along as we talk to this couple about their Skoolie Build and some of the really cool options there are for people exiting the military and using the GI Bill. Ginnie and Austin are planning their bus to be completely off-grid with a roof deck and a pretty sweet sound system. We hope this episode will inspire you to dream about your lifestyle options and bring some insight to what the process can look like for people in different situations. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy episode 6 of the Peach Life podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to have you guys on. You guys have
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. You guys have such a cool Instagram and such a cool story that when I found your guys' channel, I was just like blown away by it, and just was like had to have you guys on. So I'm so glad and thankful that you guys are joining me.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks.
So for you guys, how did that journey kind of come about? I mean, from deciding to transition out of the military and going into the next phases of your life.
Yeah. So in regards to I guess that your question, transitioning from, I guess, the civilian life to military life, and then how the bus, fills into that and everything. It's really, I want to say that we're both completely terrified of getting out of the Army, so don't get me wrong. It's not like we're just like have it all figured out. No, we're just going to jump out and get in a bus. And like the bus thing is a dream and it sounds amazing, but there's also a lot of meticulous steps to getting into that, you know what I mean, from the Army. So the Army, it takes a while to actually transition out. And then you have to make sure that things are in place so that we're financially stable when we get out. So yeah, it's not like we can just jump in or anything, but as of right now, we at least have some sort of a cushion, which is the GI Bill. And what that is essentially, as long as you're full-time schooling, the Army will pay you for housing as well as your school. So, and it's not a lot, and that's the thing, it's not really enough to live off of, but it's enough to pay for school and it's enough to eat. So that's our basically what we're gonna ride on for the first however long. And then during this time that we're transitioning out, which we should be getting out February 22nd
of 2022. So
of 2022.
We're like roughly a year out. So we have we have to finish the bus by this year, or else I mean, if we don't finish the bus by December, we're probably gonna either extend or re-enlist.
So from now until then, it's gonna be building the bus and then finding jobs and everything else, and then also the process of transitioning out of the military, which if you've ever done it, it's a lot. It takes about a year to actually transition out.
Okay.
So it's just all those things combined, and then hopefully we can figure out remote positions and stuff, which I'm trying to do something IT related, and she's wanting to do
HR,
human resources type stuff.
So, and that's great because there's so much of that work that is available these days, remotely. You can do a lot of that stuff. And one thing I was really excited about that you guys, as we were talking, over email, was that there's a lot of people getting out of the military that can use this model that you guys are doing as a really cool way to kind of transition out and have some freedom in their life. So I thought that was awesome.
You're actually kind of opening my mind a little bit as well. I didn't really think of it as a way, because I mean, I guess the bus, we own a home. And so I think that would make us a little different than others that would do the bus thing, is that we're able to, come back to the house, or we can rent it out or whatever. Whereas, I mean, the bus is technically almost a no mortgage kind of situation. So if you were getting out of the Army and you wanted to do you could totally afford to just live in a bus if you didn't have any other ties. But so I didn't really even think about that until you brought it up.
And that is a great way that people are doing. I think that's pretty common that people are, if they own a home, they'll rent it out. They can, rent it out, keep some, make
Right.
that, and plus a little bit extra. So, there are multiple different ways I think that people are finding that you can get out on the road. And if you do, things the right way, you can save money, here and there. How did just last year play into that at all with getting the bus, deciding to do that? I think in the middle of kind of uncertain times. I think anybody that makes a huge change in uncertain times, it's I want to find out why and how they got there.
So when COVID happened at the beginning of March last year, we were actually quarantined. We had to go to work for only 2 months really, and then we had to go back full time. And like the whole time we were thinking about, we always knew we wanted to travel when we got in the Army. So like at first we started like looking into RVs, and then we were just like looking at how expensive RVs were. Like the only ones that we could afford were from like 1990, and they were all like, they're like at the top of our price budget. But then we wanted to like renovate them anyways. So we started like looking into buses, but we didn't really get the bus until October. So like after COVID really happened, it would have been really nice to have the bus during quarantine, because like we could have been working on it the whole time.
Okay, yeah. See, and that's, you know, that's getting to that. Like some people were able to do that, you know, have that time off and get to kind of work extra, seeing for that. So, with that, like how do you guys plan? What's like what are you guys going for with the build, as far as like, do you guys have like a style, or kind of with the layout?
The layout was actually really hard for us to discover. Like we were like taping down everything, you know, retaping, trying to draw it up. Like it was really complicated at first. So like the main thing that we were like struggling with was having like a full bathroom, like having the sink, the toilet, and the shower all in one room. But like after we taped it out, it was kind of too big of a, it was too big to like put all these things together. So we eventually decided on like putting the sink in the bathroom on the left side and then the shower on the right, like totally separate.
Okay.
So that was like one of the biggest things that we wanted.
Yeah, we don't we don't have much of a layout per se. I would say like it's kind of just something that we get an idea of, like, hey, this is going to go in this general area, this will go in this general area, and then we're kind of piecing it together as we go. We're actually kind of in that limbo right now of like, we have some of the framing done, but we can't exactly like finish the framing and the layout until we get some of the wiring run and the plumbing and all that stuff. But the layout is completely just going to be based on trying to be completely off grid as much as possible. So
Okay.
incorporating a lot of our solar power and, like, you know, batteries and all that stuff. And then just trying to be how would you say, like, energy efficient as possible. So yeah, it really is just kind of like, it's something that's pieced together day by day. Like we really don't have a set layout.
So do you guys plan on doing like more boondocking then, like more times getting out where you're out for
Yes.
the full 2 weeks? I mean, usually if people are doing a lot of boondocking, you kind of need to be able to be out for, you know, at least, you know, 2 weeks.
Right. And so we have, like, I think we're running, we want to do at least anywhere from 600 to maxing out at 1200 watt solar system, which would give us, you know, ample energy if we're off grid or whatever. And then we're going to have like the 100-gallon water tank. We haven't bought that yet. But
the
we just,
toilet is going to help a lot.
yeah, the composting toilet, just to, you know, that's one less thing to worry about. Yeah, we're just trying to be as efficient off grid as possible, because it would just be sweet to, you know, just go out in the middle of nowhere and just park for 2 or 3 weeks and just see how we do.
Yeah. Are you guys doing a deck on the top? Or are you guys taking up as much room as you can for solar?
No, we're doing the
He
deck.
wants to do the deck so bad.
course.
Like,
Sure.
do you have room?
It's one of those ones that it's becoming like, how can you not build a deck on top of the bus? It's like,
Exactly.
like a must have. It's such a usable extra space that you know, it's pretty easy to do. So it's, I mean, you gotta maximize every inch of space you can, you know, when you live tiny.
And in my opinion, it's just so, like, unique, you know, like you can just climb on your deck and say that we're parked on the side of a mountain in Utah or something. Like, it would just be so sweet to sit up there and just look out as far as you can see, you know. Like, I don't, it's almost like it's a must have with a bus.
Yeah, and
which is cool. I didn't even know that people did that until we had already bought the bus.
Even on top of our trailer, it's like about the same height as a bus. It's up high enough that it makes so much difference with the view for places that you're at. You know, kind of getting that.
Tiny though?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We live in like a renovated trailer that is a 30-foot trailer that we've kind of completely not gutted everything, but renovated the whole thing. And then what I'm in right now is like a tiny art studio that's right next to right behind the trailer that we built during quarantine for my wife. She's an artist, and so yeah, so, you know, and I had never built anything, so we just decided to do this, and it's been nice getting that extra space. I mean, for us living tiny, we're able to make it work, but having this little extra space has been really nice, having that just, you know, extra creative space. You know, when there's only like one one area, you know, it can, especially with a, you know, kid or kids. It
Right.
Yeah. You guys built it yourselves?
Yeah, I built this, and I really did build it myself. My wife broke her arm right. It was right
Oh my
before, right
God.
after we started doing it. Yeah, she took up rollerblading and broke her arm. But so it was like, so that was one of those things that she was not able to. And but you know, it was a good learning lesson for me. You know, I never really built anything before, and you know, I was like, well, I'll give it a try. I had the episode that was two weeks ago, the third episode was with this guy named Graham. He's got a channel called Woodness Goodness where he was building a cool cabin. And I started watching his channel and I was like, you know what? Like, let's go for it. Let's do it. He was like, you know, a little bit into his, and I was just like, you know, I think we could at least give it a shot. And I think it took about 5 months. Yeah, I think it took me 5 months. But so it's you know, it's been a cool little experience, and that doing that and being helped out by other people is like why I'm like, this is like the greatest thing I can get out there for other people, is like helping other people just decide to make that decision and just take the jump. And you know, it's a really cool way of life.
I think we were definitely influenced by other people because like I was contacting a lot of people who already like built their buses, and I was like, "Are you guys professional builders, woodworkers? Like, do you know what you're doing?" And we're just like, we learned everything off of YouTube, so like that was really inspiring to me. Like, we literally have learned everything off just Googling and like YouTubing and stuff. So it's like so crazy how helpful this schooling community is too, because everyone says just get out there and do it. Like, don't be afraid. You know, if you're on the verge of like thinking about doing it, you should just start doing it.
Like she was saying how I think originally we wanted an RV, which is I think what a lot of people do. And then we actually went, like we were sold on that. You know, we were like, we were going to do the RV thing. That's great and stuff. Cause I have a truck that could tow at least, you know, one of the smaller camper trailers. And we went and looked at one at an RV dealership out here.
Almost bought it.
Pretty close, because it is sweet. Like, don't get me wrong, you get into it and you're like, wow, this is awesome. It's like you got surround sound audio. It's so nice and it's done. But then it was like we started thinking about the financial aspect of it, and then it just, you know, is so just like all of the others. They were all the same thing, just in a different package. And we just kind of wanted something that could be ours, you know, and that we could take anywhere, and it would just be different. And I want to say we sat down one night and just watched this random Netflix documentary. It was Expedition Happiness.
Yeah, have you seen it?
Man, the name sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. I don't want to say I have if I haven't. The name sounds familiar.
It's this couple that I guess that they were from like Germany, I believe Germany, right? And they flew over here, and then they flew to North Carolina, and they built a bus. And this was all on like a work visa, right? They built a bus in 2 months, took it up to Alaska, like through Canada, and then back down to somewhere in Mexico where they finally like stopped, and they ended up like giving the bus away. But it just kind of ignited in us like, hey, you know, like maybe we should do the bus thing.
Yeah.
And then we started like Googling it, and it just made more sense financially. Like they're more structurally sound. It was just like, maybe we could do this. You know, these people aren't professionals, they're amateurs. Nobody knows what they're doing actually. And we definitely don't know what we're doing. So finally we were just like, let's look into getting a school bus. And then a couple months later, you know, we have a bus.
Yeah,
I
that
like that you can take the bus and make it your own too, you know.
yeah, being able to customize that layout, and you really said it. They're so much more rugged. Like RVs are cool and they look pretty, but they are nowhere near as rugged, even in the way they're built, in any way, as a good built schoolie conversion. Like there's just no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's kind of the ground up thing. You know, you can't like even the travel trailer. It was cool and it had a lot of the things that we would like. But as far as like, you know, getting off road and then having solar, you know, as an option, and then having the all 12-volt system and the propane everything, and you know, by the time that you get into a newer trailer and you do that, you can almost afford to build a bus. Like, so it made a lot of sense to us that, you know, the things that we wanted to do compared with the price of getting the school bus and then actually implementing that into our build, it was just a no-brainer, you know. And I noticed actually a lot of these buses that you can go online and buy a built-out school bus for just about the same as a camper, but it doesn't cost as much to build that, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah, you pay a significant amount more with if you don't do it yourself.
Now on that though, I would say that if you are unable to build a school bus, like we're really fortunate, you know, like we have the Army, we have at least a pretty steady income coming in. Like we had time. We get like 4 days every month or whatever, and you get your weekends pretty steadily. So you can always bet that you'll have at least some time and the money coming in to work on a bus. That, paired with the fact that we have a house and a place to put it. So I understand why some people, it would make more sense to actually get a little camper trailer or something, because even though it's a little bit more money up front and you might not have the durability, it's more accessible to, more people.
I'm
Yeah.
thankful for our neighbors. We're so thankful that our neighbors have not like said anything about it. Like we have like the neighbors across the street, our neighbors to the left of us, they like have not complained about the bus at all. They're just like coming to check it out. Yeah, they come by like every so often to look at it.
That's cool. It is such a cool thing to see somebody doing. So I can definitely see a lot of people being, being intrigued by that. Like, what you're doing,
Yeah.
you're building a house out of a bus. Like,
Yeah.
did you guys have any construction experience at all? Or were you guys, just going at it like just YouTube?
So when we started, she couldn't even measure.
Okay, I did not know how to use a tape measure.
She had never used a tape measure.
I would literally be like, okay, it's 5 inches and 3 lines. Like I still do that. I don't know 3/8 to, I don't know any of that stuff still. I just count the lines.
And I think I pointed that out in one of our posts. I was like, Ginny started out, she couldn't even measure. And now, I mean, she's building boxes and all kinds of stuff, So like we have absolutely no construction experience at all. Like none whatsoever. But
I'm also thankful that his dad only lives like 30 minutes down the road. So he's lent us so many really useful tools. Like if we didn't have all the tools that he has let us borrow, like we'd spending a lot of money on tools.
Yeah.
So that, and then he's a great resource. And then we also have just YouTube and Google and everything else. Like your Facebook, it's so accessible at this point that like I don't even want to say it's an underground thing anymore. It's so many people are doing it and understanding why it's available that there's just so many resources out there for you to figure this stuff out on your own. Like it's not that hard. There's some things that are super confusing. Like right now we're kind of stuck on electrical.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, we're figuring it out, and just it's not that hard. It's really not. I think anybody could do it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's understandable. That is one of the most technical parts on a build like that. You have to get it right. There's no way around that one. So,
Yeah.
so that is just one of those ones. Cause I remember that was one I'd never done electrical before. And when I did it, I was, when the sink worked and the electric worked and nothing was leaking or fire, I was like, okay, like, like that was the moment. Yeah, I let a little bit of stress finally die down and go, okay, I can move on to what's next.
I'm glad we'll hopefully one day reach that, the end of the stress. Because it's like even once you do understand the electrical part or you understand how it functions, then it's a matter of like
piecing it all together and like making it all work.
Yeah, and then how to actually wire it properly, and like hopefully this wire doesn't short out or whatever. And yeah, it is stressful every time we're messing with it. Like yesterday we were doing a lot of
hooking up the receptacles.
Yeah, actually wiring in the receptacles and stuff. And we have really shallow boxes.
Oh yeah.
And we have to like squeeze all that wiring into it, and so we're worried that that might cause a problem.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. I had a few boxes too that I had, like one, I think I had an RFID one that it was kind of like that too, where I was just really having to shove things in there the way that I didn't think was probably the best, but sometimes we do what we got to do to get by. So I think we talked about it a little bit before, but when you guys do get out on the road, like what you guys plan on doing, campsites, boondocking, what kind of ways of travel do you guys plan to do?
I think we plan on boondocking as much as we can, but the only thing with that is like we need to have access to internet at all times because we're going to be going to school full time online. So like that's the only thing that would probably stop us from boondocking is not having internet access. But I want to be out in the middle of nowhere as much as possible.
Yeah, I know it's getting easier and easier, and apps and things like that are making it a lot better. People are able to see at this place, they have 3 bars of signal. So the Skoolie community, and even all the kind of traveling community coming together and helping each other out by those things. I mean, that's valuable stuff, knowing if you're going to, a campsite, it's like what kind of services are going to be for our provider. I mean, that's So that's awesome. And then technology is expanding too with, whatever, like We Boost or a bunch of the other, different companies out there making, Wi-Fi extenders, things that, receive better signal. So
Right.
luckily there's good options out there these days, to be able to keep working remotely.
I also heard that a lot of campsites like don't like buses coming into their campsites. I don't know if you heard those horror stories.
Yeah, that's an interesting one that even I think last week I was getting into a little bit and I've heard that as well. I've never experienced it myself, but that is a common theme. Is just, and I guess it all depends. Every bus looks different. Some are, wild and colorful. Some are normal. They all look completely different. And it's sad, but maybe that's even why I'm trying to be here, because I want to bring the whole
Yeah.
community together. I don't care if you're in a bus, a tiny van, if you're literally in an RV. It's like you're all trying to build the same kind of really cool life, and it's like the best thing you could do is all work together, all help each other out. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
when push comes to shove, people, whether it's, someone driving an RV or a trailer, seeing a bus pulled over on the side of the road, you know what, they're probably are going to stop because they know what that life is like. So when push comes to shove, that community, will and does come together. So, and hopefully those perceptions change. I know a lot of times with campsites, it's like you're dealing with like camp hosts and things like that, and it's not
Yeah.
always necessarily just the people. A lot of times it's, maybe the parks themselves that are a little, prejudice against certain types of, vehicles. So, you know,
I did notice that like the length of your bus kind of depends on if they're gonna let you in or not. Like that's why we kind of didn't want a 40-foot bus. We went with like a 32-foot bus, which I think is a perfect length for us because it's big enough for me and Austin and then our dog and our cat that we're gonna bring. So
yeah, without having kids and in a full life like that, I almost think it might be smarter. I think that there's a lot of, and I may be wrong, and I might be just talking off the top of my head, but I think a lot of the national parks and things like that, I feel like it's 32 or 33
yeah,
as
yeah.
what can get you in. So I do know that a lot of people do have trouble when they get over, over a certain size.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why we discussed it a lot, because that's one issue I think that's a barrier into the schoolie community really, is that it's hard to find a good bus with the right engine and the right transmission that's going to be within a good length that's allowed in all these parks and stuff, So like we took a few
Yeah.
weeks,
We
I
were
would say
searching
maybe
for
like
a
a month,
while.
yeah,
Yeah.
finding the right bus at the right length, the right transmission engine combo that would work for us. But I could understand like if you had like 2 or 3 kids, like we would totally have gone with maybe a 35-foot bus and just had to deal with the parks or whatever.
I feel like the mid-sized buses are so hard to come by. Like we had to drive 8 hours to Pennsylvania to go get ours. So
Oh yeah, no, people. I mean, so many channels I've seen like fly. I mean, people, go all over the place to get the right one. Some are like, we got like one of three in the world that we were looking for,
yeah.
specifically things like that. So, and I never even realized that deep into it, until really like starting talking to people, like how much it's like, how in detail they really went to like get the exact bus that they, people felt, would work for them.
Yeah, I feel like we knew more of what we didn't want than what we did want. Like we heard a lot of bad things about the 545 transmission because something about like it can't go down hills. I don't know. We just knew we wanted to avoid that one.
Okay. Yeah. So but that's great that there's
Yeah,
those kind of resources out there that people, say that kind of stuff like, hey, like
yeah,
these ones are having, a lot of issues and
Yeah, it's crucial. I mean, if you're getting into it, you definitely need to check out some of those. Like Facebook is a really big help. Now, I have to say that as far as communities go, Facebook can be a little more pretentious, I guess.
yeah.
Like especially the RV community. But as far as the schoolie one, they're pretty good for now. I think Instagram's a lot better as far as just less toxicity in their community. But there is a lot of help on all those platforms as far as like especially entering the community, because once you're in, I mean, you can look up videos on all kinds of different things other than school buses, but getting in, you really need to know, what kind of school bus is the best, what brand you need to be looking for, because certain brands have a higher ceiling. If you don't want to do a ceiling raise, it's really deep. And so I would definitely encourage people, like if you're getting into it, at least to start, go ahead and do the research on what bus to get, because it can make a big difference down the road. I could honestly see us later down the road getting like a smaller bus even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that. Like after you bought yours now, it's like, are you 100% happy with it, or do you? And that's a lot of times you do see people say, I might be able to go smaller one day.
I think we're 100% happy with it. I mean, I am. I think she originally wanted the flat nose bus, and we ended up with like a dog nose kind of bus. And I think she wanted the rear engine.
The rear engine flat nose. That's like what I wanted so bad, but those are so hard to come by, especially the midsize. Like I think it's easier to drive the flat nose because like the turning radius is. I'm just terrified to drive the bus to begin with, so I gotta learn.
I wanted the dog nose. I think it's cooler looking. I don't know why. It's just got that old school like school bus look to it, and I really like the fact that I can get up there and just flip the hood up. Yeah. And I think the bus is sweet, and it's fun to drive. It really is.
That's actually that's interesting. Yeah, is just that the simplicity there of having the kind of normal engine bay. I mean, I'm not sure how close to normal, but at least in the same spot and kind of a little more familiar than the ones that are in the rear.
Yeah, with the rear one, I really don't know if I know what I was looking at. At least I've been in a couple of engines and cars and stuff, so I can flip up the bus hood and like, okay, this is the alternator, this is whatever. And I mean, it at least looks more familiar. With the rear engine bus, I really don't know what I'd be looking at. We'd probably have to get twice as much help as we have already. Yeah. But either way, I would point out that the dog nose is what they call it. It's definitely, they're more available. They're cheaper. I don't know why the flat front bus is just so sought after that once you find one, it's either going to be overpriced or too far or whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, getting that that it's probably a lot more common. I would have thought that the flat nose ones were more common, but it seems like the more and more I see that, the more, and I don't know if it's just because they're just really getting picked up at like a crazy pace, or or what it is about those.
There's pros and cons to all of them. I mean, like the flat nose is, I think, a big selling point on those is that the wheelbase is shorter. So your rear wheels will be further towards the middle and your front wheels will be further towards the middle. So they'll be behind the driver's seat. That way, when you're turning, you have much more turning radius. It's better for like mountain driving, which is what a lot of schoolie people are trying to do. But again, like I said, it's harder to pick them up, and it's definitely harder to get them at a good price with like little rust. And I think we found a nice medium, because our bus is a little shorter, so the turning radius isn't as big of a problem. It'd have been cool to have the shorter turn radius, I guess, but it really doesn't make that much of a difference.
Like where do you guys plan on do you guys plan on traveling the whole country? Do you guys have any like major destinations you guys are like, because I know like once we're able to hit the road at some point, like, everyone's got their spots, like I gotta go there, I gotta go this, like what's kind of that for you guys?
I think the main thing that I want to see is the arches in Utah. Like I have been obsessing over them like forever. I would love to see the arches.
Okay.
I know he wants to go to Alaska.
Yeah, it's, we want options, I guess, but that's one part that I don't think we've let ourselves like sit down and really plan out. Like, this is where we're going. This is where we're going. I don't think we've come to grips with the fact that
like it's actually
this is 100% happening yet. Yeah. We're so caught up with research and, but yeah, I think we're going to be big national park people for sure. Just because like, I think growing up, neither of us have really had the opportunity to go to a lot of that. Like, I've never been to the West Coast, and I don't think she has either. And then we're also really big into music festivals. Like, that's kind of our thing. Like, we do those anyways. But again, we've never really had the opportunity to go to, the ones up north, to the ones out west. And we want to be able to stop at all those along the way. That's another reason we wanted a shorter bus, because a lot of those don't allow bigger like RVs,
You know what? I totally even didn't think about that because we love music festivals. We for all my 20s we lived like a block from Coachella, and we would go every year. Yeah, we live super close, awesome. So we love that. And I didn't even think about that oh yeah, you can take to a lot of them. You can take your rigs and just do the camping there. So that's something to definitely think about.
Yeah, I think we're trying to go to Bonnaroo this year if it's happening still.
Yeah,
Like,
every
all the
this
festivals
year
got
is
canceled last year.
Yeah, we're betting on it not happening, but once the bus is done, that's something that we just love to do. And we've been talking about doing more camping festivals, and we were like, oh, why not build the bus with that in mind, you know? And so that's a big influence on us as well, not just to all these national parks and stuff, but being able to access the festivals and actually
yeah.
bring our bus in there and stay overnight and stuff. We thought it'd be awesome.
I think the only problem like with going to a festival in the bus would probably like, can we bring the dog in there with us, or like, are we gonna have to like find, I don't know, what's it
Oh.
called, doggy daycare,
Yeah, kennels.
kennels?
That's a good question. I have no idea whether they, you know, whether they let people keep their pets in their trailers or RVs. Well, that's interesting. I'll have to find that
Yeah.
out.
Maybe we can figure that out for people. We'll figure out what works for us,
So
and
you can
then
bring your
we'll
dog to Bonnaroo.
yeah, and we'll put it out there like these are the places that allow it and don't allow it. And here's where you can keep your animals in the meantime.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and see, I love that because you know we have pets, and you know I it's one of the harder parts, or a little more hard part about traveling is with pets, and so like I like to, that's one question I like to ask people, you know, is seeing that, like, is, you know, your plans with traveling with pets, people that maybe already are on the road and have been doing it for a while. I'm like, you know, what's worked for you guys, like, you know, with especially, I mean, cats, especially a lot of, you know, dogs are pretty good, but I think people get really sketched out with cats. Are like, you know, are we just going to stop and they're going to run off and we need to leave and they're, you know, nowhere to be seen.
It's actually funny because I honestly did not want to bring our cat. I was like, he's not gonna like it. Like, he's not gonna enjoy being on the road 24/7. But then Austin was like, we're not going without him, basically. Like, we're bringing the cat.
I can't imagine being, you know, being out on the road without, you know, your pets.
Yeah.
That would be so hard. You know, I couldn't imagine doing
I
that.
think we can probably create like a cool space for him to just like lay in the sun next to a window. I think that'd be cute.
Yeah, I think we've actually already started incorporating them into the build. You know, it's important to us to have our pets. Like we're not about getting pets just to, like, you know, let them go or whatever when we, you know, don't need them anymore or something. So we've already got at the front of the bus, we're building like the litter box area. We saw somebody else do something similar, I think.
Yeah, like a little cubby.
Yeah, it was like a little cubby that they built in the front, and that's where they kept the litter box. So we've already started that. She's been building that.
Yeah.
That's
We're
cool.
not sure about yet, you know, what the kennel area, I guess.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's even a problem that we're dealing with right now is we have like this one spot that our dog bed is, and I'm going to build like a custom bed for my daughter where it actually lifts up and there's a kennel underneath it with or like her dog bed area with like a dresser as well. So I've been trying to figure that same thing out, and I think I finally figured out. I just need to build it. Now that I've got this thing built, I can start hopefully, you know, getting over onto other projects that I need to do. But yeah, getting like the litter box, especially the box, getting that one out of the way, two covered somewhere where the smell isn't as bad is really important. So building something custom that you don't have to see it, it's easy to clean, and make sure it's easy to clean, because that's one thing I noticed. We built a custom thing that was cool inside of a cabinet that was already there. I kind of had to customize some stuff, but the fact that I didn't realize at first that it wasn't as easy to get the litter box in and out to clean. And that was a real nuisance and annoying. So I had to do some customization to make it easier.
And that's a really good point. I think that's something that we're trying to figure out exactly how we can, like, because it's kind of like a flat sort of bench looking thing, and we want to be able to like lift it up so that we can lift the litter box out directly. But yeah, that's a really good point. You know,
Like,
that's something we gotta.
The problem with that is like the gear shifter is literally right next to it, so you have to like incorporate the gear shifter like next to the litter box, like on the same lid.
Yeah, all those little things, especially with buses, it seems like there's so much. It feels like to me, it feels like there's a lot you're fighting with. You're fighting with windows throughout the whole thing. You're fighting with a lot of things to, you know. And are you guys doing any window deletes at all, or?
We've deleted 3 with the actual like sheet metal.
Okay.
And then I guess I've noticed a couple people on YouTube and Google and all that, they like to, they just black the remaining windows out, at least from like the bottom down, like the bottom half.
Okay.
And then they'll put insulation and like frame it out. I've heard it's a problem because if the window has any issues, then you have to like rip out your wall and get in there and stuff. But I think we're gonna do the same thing. because that would allow us, like, say in the kitchen, we can just, cut them all in half, and
Yeah.
we'll still have access to the top window, but we can build maybe like a backsplash up to that part.
Yeah.
That's a
So
really good idea. I actually, yeah, I haven't thought of that. That's awesome to just get that, because then it almost makes like kind of like a window, kind of like I have right behind me here. It's just like one that's upper when you can stand and see out of it,
Yeah, yeah.
but it gives a little more privacy still too. So that's really cool.
yeah, so I think she already bought. You just bought that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's like super dark window tint, basically. It's like pitch black window tint. And so we'll just tint the bottom half, put insulation, and do exactly like we're doing with the walls. We'll insulate it and then put our little wall right over it. So it won't be a functioning window anymore, but it should help keep, any moisture and any cold or heat coming out. And then the top one will still be accessible, and we can build our little window ledge and everything. So
Yeah.
We did leave the bathroom. We left the bathroom windows, so we gotta make sure we gotta block those out.
Do some,
yeah, we're gonna leave those. Those will probably be the only full windows that we leave.
Now, with your guys' time frame, like, what are you guys hoping for a completion date? I mean, I know we were talking earlier. I mean, you have almost a hard end date that's, in,
Yeah.
2022. But I mean, as far as, for you guys, I mean, I know you're having to do it more like on weekends and kind of having to be like weekend warriors with it almost, maybe not able to do it full time. So what's that kind of time frame looking like?
Well, so we have exactly a year until we finish, which I feel like we don't have enough time, but he keeps saying that we have plenty of time because we only can work on it on the weekends, because after work every single day we're just like drained. So it's only like a weekend thing.
Yeah, I think
I would say that our date is definitely, February time frame next year. So, I mean, I think that we can get it done in that amount of time. I really do. It might not be completely perfect, flawless like we want it, but I really don't think it'll ever be completely perfect, flawless. So, I mean, considering we got it in October?
Yeah, we got it in October.
Like late October, maybe.
Yeah,
And I mean, we took time off.
You guys are on a really good pace so far. Like with
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I feel like we are, and it helps that we didn't rip out the ceiling and all that. So we're already at the point of, I think I have one more wall to actually build. Like that's an interior wall, and then from there it's like we're gonna finish up wiring and framing, and then from there it's really just gonna be finishing and appliances and.
Yeah, I feel like there's a big arc. Like at the beginning, you really feel like you get a lot of work done fast, and then there's like this middle area that does feel like a real bell curve that sucks. But then once you get over that, it really does. The end part kind of speeds up, kind of speeds back up, and all comes back together. So I think you guys are. I think you guys shouldn't have any issues hitting your guys date.
Yeah,
I'm glad you bring that up. Yeah, because that kind of brings us back to like the beginning of this podcast is where you brought up, or we were talking about that we're stuck in that like wiring phase, but where does this go? We can't do this until we do this, and that's the bell curve I think you're talking about. Is exactly that. We've got the framing done, but now it's like, where does this wire go? Where does this appliance go? We can't get this until we get this appliance in, until we get this water tank in, and so. I think the demolition and all that is the real physical part, and then now is the like mental like marathon struggle. As far as the tiny lifestyle, I just feel like it is more accessible than people realize. In fact, I think it's more accessible than buying a house. I think it's
really.
I honestly, yeah, and that's the thing that people don't understand is that it's more accessible than the lifestyle that you're already paying for, the lifestyle that you can't afford. Because I mean, if we have a bus, we don't need a car. Like we can just get a little cheap, like $1,000 motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's our transportation.
I was gonna ask that. Do you guys plan on towing anything behind, or having like a bike or scooter, or what do you guys plan on traveling with that way?
So, I believe that's the one thing we're gonna outsource. I don't know anything about welding, and I don't want to mess it up, even if I learn it, which I will. But we want to at least have some sort of platform on the back of the bus that we can put a motorcycle on, because we've heard a lot of people talking about, like, especially during the busy season and those RV parks and stuff, if we do happen to have a space and we don't want to lose it, it'd be nice to just, unmount our motorcycle, go to the grocery store, whatever we need to do, or even go to these national parks. Because, shoot, we went to a state park, what was it, Chimney Rock, I think, in North Carolina. And I mean, I saw a bus up there, but I don't picture us climbing that mountain.
Are you going to do like kind of an enduro-ish where you can, take it on the road, but get it a little off-road if you need?
I would love that. I would love to have kind of a hybrid sort of bike that could do both, that.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
I'm not driving it.
She's scared of motorcycles, but I think that it would be sweet to be able to do that. Yeah, to have something that, we could take, whichever way. And then especially out west where things are a little, I don't want to say more lenient, but just more spaced out. Like you can kind of get off-road a little more.
Yeah.
Being in the East Coast, we probably are going to end up more in the RV parks and stuff. There's a lot less open land as there is in places like Utah and all this crazy.
That's what I'm hearing with everybody I talk to. And I didn't realize it. I mean, of course, that the East Coast is so much more developed. I mean, it's been developed, but I didn't realize how much and how little, like literally anywhere to pull off to the side of the road or stay or free stuff.
No, there's really not. That's not a thing. I don't want to say like that's not possible on the East Coast, but it is so much more developed. Like you said, there's so much bigger of a population on the East Coast. Now the West Coast, yeah, you see that population, but it's really only in like LA and San Francisco and like the big cities. But outside of the big cities is kind of fair game. Whereas the East Coast, even outside of the big cities, it's all very like, there's nowhere like that you can just pull off. Like you're gonna be somewhere in somebody's yard. Like you can't just like even in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, there's nowhere to just pull off, and there's no developed land or.
Man, that's crazy. I never been back to the north and kind of northeast coast. I've never really seen what it's like. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen, because that's something that I'm kind of not believing that well, is that I see people on all these communities and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, we boondock out in the middle of nowhere. We just go off the road and we just live there for a while. And I'm like, here, like, I can't think of a single place I've ever seen that you could possibly do that.
I'm excited that you guys, like we were talking earlier with the transition from the military, and just the whole idea that, getting the resources out there that, with the GI Bill, and that there's ways to, to plan and prepare like you guys are doing, far enough in advance that when you get out, you're, that you're ahead of the game, and you have kind of your future planned out. So I really think that's awesome that you guys are doing that, and really inspirational for other people to see that. And I'm sure I hope someday that this gets in front of other people that are maybe transitioning out of the military. They're like, hey, that's a really cool idea, and maybe spark that journey for them. Yeah.
And I want to say we haven't faced nearly as much adversity as other people. I know she brought up that the Army doesn't give you much freedom, but on the flip side, it does. Like we have money and time, and we have the ability at early 20s. We bought a house, and just stuff like that you just wouldn't get without the military.
Yeah, anybody in the military can do what we're doing. Like everyone has access to the GI Bill, and it's honestly we would not be able to do this if it wasn't for the GI Bill. Like we're like almost all of our income is gonna be based off of going to school. So like anybody in the military who's looking to transition out, like this, I think this is a good option to get out there and start traveling. Because like when you're in the military, you're really limited to how much freedom you have. Yeah. Like if you want to go somewhere and they say no, you literally just can't go. So I feel like this is gonna be like, it's gonna be night and day. Like having like less freedom and then having all this freedom. I'm really excited to start the journey.
For anybody out there, what's your guys' Instagram channel?
So our Instagram channel is called Bumpingbus. Everyone like the name.
I love the name.
Like really like people at work, they're like, why is it called Bumpingbus? I'm like, because we like music, so we want the bus to be bumping, literally.
That's cool.
Bumpingbus, the Bumpingbus.
It's the bumping.
Like we said, we love music festivals and stuff, and I don't think we put it out on any of our social media stuff, but we're actually getting pretty close to wiring up. We're gonna do a pretty badass sound system in the bus, and that's something we're really excited about that I don't see on a lot of other channels. Yeah, that we want to do the whole thing, like the subwoofer and the
so you're integrated with the entire bus, like a full. That's awesome. That's gonna be a really good sound system.
The bumping bus.
Yeah, that's why with ours it's cool with the trailer. Like one thing, we had our back window, the entire window. My wife let me make into my music studio, and I have like full size monitors in there, and it's like with those you can you can not be in, you can have it so loud you can't be in that, in the house. So it's nice having good
That's
music.
awesome.
We think it'd be hilarious to just, pull into wherever and we're just shaking. Like it would just be the best thing ever. In a school bus, it'd be awesome. So that's why we're the bumping bus.